In a world that's always racing forward, sometimes we need to slow down and reconnect.
Connect genuinely, broaden your perspective, and share your passion.
Bona fide dialogues, where authenticity, creativity, and passion merge.
Welcome to BONA Dialogues.
Sam Kabert is a TEDx speaker, best-selling author, and former Silicon Valley entrepreneur who once lived the dream of working less than 4 hours a day. By 31, he'd built a 7-figure company, earned a spot on Silicon Valley's 40 under 40 list, and ran a business that operated on autopilot. But beneath the surface, Sam felt numb. He had time freedom, financial success, and everything he thought would bring fulfillment. Yet something was missing. Despite doing all the right things, he was disconnected from his emotions, drained of purpose, and silently burning out. So he made the bold decision to walk away, leaving behind the business and the identity he'd built around it. Sam set out to rediscover who he was beyond the titles, the income, and the illusion of balance. Burned out and unfulfilled, he realized that true peace doesn't come from success. It comes from alignment. Now, through his 6-step breathe method and soul life balance philosophy, Sam has shared his method with over 100,000 people, helping high performers regulate their nervous systems, clear brain fog, reconnect with their emotions, and find clarity from within. He's a certified breathwork facilitator, master NLP MER practitioner, 2 times best-selling author, and host of the Top 3% podcast, Soul Seeker.
I focus on dialogues, and I'm trying to promote this idea of deep, long conversations because we live in this world of short interactions that are not very meaningful. And I have been thinking about dialogues a lot with other people, how beneficial it is to all of us. But lately, I started to focus more on internal dialogues. I think that you cannot actually connect with another human being on a deeper level unless you're connected to yourself, right? And we have so many thoughts in our minds, going through our minds every single day, thousands of thoughts, but they're like popping up, right? They're not very structured. So I don't think that many of us know how to structure that internal dialogue that will help you connect to yourself. So I thought because you're teaching yoga, maybe you have some suggestions.
Yeah, Christina, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. And I totally agree with you that there's so much conversations that are just like surface level, and for me, as I went down the spiritual path and started to prioritize my mental and emotional health more than anything else, what I wanted was deep conversations below the surface. And just like you with your amazing podcast that you're running, I started Soul Seeker, my podcast, back in 2019, a lot of ways just to have those conversations where it's like, hey, let's let down the mask and let's be real with one another. And you're right. I'm a yoga instructor, a breathwork practitioner, a master practitioner of NLP, MER, and hypnosis. So a lot of my work is just about our self-talk, and one of the things that I find most fascinating as it relates to science is something called the 90-second rule. Or have you heard about the 90-second rule yet?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing because most people haven't, like I've done all those certification programs I just mentioned. I didn't hear about the 90-second rule in any of those. I heard about in Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor's TED Talk back in 2008. And Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor in that TED Talk back in 2008 literally brought a brain on stage as a neuroanatomist. She taught us about the 90-second rule. And the 90-second rule teaches that our body has a 90-second physiological response when we experience an emotion. So let's unpack that. What happens is we have this thought that's not serving us. Most of us on a subconscious level avoid, numb, or distract that thought. And when I say the word subconscious, it's interchangeable with the word unconscious. Both of those words mean that is 95% of our awareness, everything that we don't have access to. As you pointed out, we have over 60,000 thoughts a day. 80% of those are from the day before.
Negative thoughts, right? Mostly negative thoughts.
Yeah, and 90% of those are negative, right? I call it the 60, 80, 90 rule. 60,000 a day, 80% from the day before, 90% negative. So we're living in a perpetual feedback loop of the day before. Then there's the reticular activating system in the brain, which is a matchmaking system that gives us more of what we are familiar with, which is why we continue to have the same experiences. And how the subconscious or the unconscious mind works is through a filtration system of deleting, distorting, and generalizing. And what that means is that we are processing over 2 million bits of information in any given second, and only 126 of those bits make it to our conscious awareness. And that happens through deleting what's not important based off of what the subconscious believes is important to us, distorting it so that it mends itself to our belief system, or generalizing it to associate with something else. So just with these scientific facts here, I know that's a lot. Like, that's why it's so important to start to regain conscious control of our thoughts and feelings. And that's exactly what I teach.
Wouldn't that be like a first step just to clear your mind? I think not many of us know how to do it. First, to clear your mind, and then maybe initiate that internal dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do it?
Yeah, I mean,
Do you have any suggestions?
Oh, yeah, this is exactly what I teach. So most people would teach to clear your mind. I don't teach that because I feel like that's another form of avoidance and numbing and distracting, and it leads to more compartmentalization. It's just a band-aid solution. So what I do is I stack, meaning I combine nervous system regulation through breath work with subconscious reprogramming. So with breath work, we enter into a state called transient hypofrontality. And that just means that we're temporarily shutting down the prefrontal cortex of the brain. And the prefrontal cortex is our thinking, analytical, logical mind. And when we do that, we enter the limbic system. And the limbic brain is essentially our emotional brain, our feeling brain. So at that point, we're not bypassing, we're not avoiding, we're allowing all those stuck thoughts and feelings to come to the surface so that we can release them, as opposed to just quiet them. And then we alchemize it, or we transform it with reprogramming the supercomputer of our mind, which is our subconscious, through subconscious reprogramming.
That makes so much sense to me, because we want to clear our mind, but without processing what's already in there, right? And what you're doing, you can't just kind of quiet your mind. You need to release your negative thoughts, for example, right?
That's it. You got it.
Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense. That's logical. I'm curious to know more about it. We live this fast-paced lifestyles, most of us. We're doing so much every day, like overdoing. People are tired, exhausted. They don't have time to connect to themselves, you know? So maybe there are some practices, simple practices for somebody who is very busy, have children, full-time job, many other responsibilities, maybe taking care of elderly parents. But you have to stop for a moment and think about yourself and how to connect to yourself. And like you said, clear your mind, release negative thoughts. But it seems like there's a lot to this process. Is there anything they can do, some maybe small steps they
Yeah.
can take to get out of this busy life that is just overwhelming for many of us?
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to lead like a 2 minute exercise in a moment here. But before I do have a free online community called Breath Club. Every single Wednesday, I lead a breathwork session on Zoom, and it's completely free. It's just 30 minutes long. And basically, what we are doing is we're stepping into the subconscious mind to reprogram it. We're exactly
Mhm.
what I just said. We do breath work first, then we reprogram it. We completely eradicate and wipe out limiting beliefs and emotions so that we can transform them. In the Breath Club, I also have a whole bank of pre-recorded exercises. And what I tell people is like, hey, if you want to make this a practice because your life is so busy on the outside, I wrote about this in my book, by the way, Overcome the Overwhelm. There's two types of overwhelm. There's external overwhelm and there's internal overwhelm. And because of the external environment, of obligations and responsibilities and the human doingness of our culture, we think we don't have time to spend any time within with our thoughts and feelings. Yet it's exactly the opposite. If we get stuck in the chaos of the outer world, of the external overwhelm, we can't do more to fix our way through it. What we have to do is go inward, even if it's just a couple of minutes, to clear what's there. Now we can approach all of those responsibilities and obligations from a clear, grounded mind, which makes it so much easier to
Mhm.
approach life. So that's a little bit about internal and external overwhelm. And the best thing someone can do is when you wake up in the morning, before you grab your phone, take 3 deep breaths. Ask yourself how you feel and ask yourself, what do you want to experience in the day? And just set an intention for the day. And it's simple. It takes a minute, before you do anything else. And then from there, you can begin to habit stack and do more. But just starting there. Would you like me a guide, like a quick
Yeah.
2 minute
Let me
breathwork?
just ask a quick question, just
Yeah.
follow-up question. You said 3 deep breaths. How do you do it? Through your nose? And how
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
do it? It seems like it's simple, right? But is there a way to do it wrong or a right way to do it?
Yeah. I'm going to teach the cyclic sigh in a moment. That's one thing we can do. Super simple. But if you're just like, waking up in the morning, just a big inhale through the nose and an exhale through the mouth, or a big inhale through the nose and an exhale through the nose, just like a classic, like
Mm.
deep breath, no specific breath work exercise, like just take a deep breath. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's good. And then you said the first step, take a deep breath, 3 deep breaths, right? Second step, you said think about your day. I just
Uh,
wanted to
take
like
3 deep breaths.
stop here for a bit so it's actually registered, for all
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah.
This
Take
3 step
three.
practice, morning routine.
Correct. Take 3 deep breaths
Mhm.
and ask yourself, how do I feel?
How do I feel?
And then ask yourself, what do I want to experience
What do
today?
I want to experience today? Okay. I think now we will remember. Yeah.
Simple, right?
Yeah, it is simple.
Yeah.
And I'm
Um,
sure very helpful too.
I mean, I was working on worthiness. I still am. When I feel like I have truly mastered my book or mastered my worth, I want to write a book mastering worthiness. But I mean, despite building a 7-figure business while working less than 4 hours a day, named to Silicon Valley's 40 under 40 list, and named to my industry's rising stars, like I was going through extreme unworthiness. And for about 6 months, every single morning, I would do exactly what we just said, 3 deep breaths, and then I would just tell myself, I love myself. I love
Mm.
myself. That was a huge catalyst for me to step into my worth. Now, do I feel completely worthy? No, not will I ever? Maybe, maybe not. But when I feel like I've gotten to a place where I can truly put like something together for someone else to really help them master their own worthiness, I can't wait to write a book called Mastering Worthiness, but I'm not there right now. That said, worthiness is the core wound of the human generation, of the human species. There's a lot of books about it. I think anyone listening might be like, yeah, that does resonate, or someone may be thinking like, yeah, no, I feel worthy. Once you get down to it and you go pretty deep, a lot of our core wounds and a lot of what's presenting at the surface, what's beneath that is not feeling worthy when we really.
Very interesting. I never thought about it because I was lucky enough to grow up in a family where my parents loved me unconditionally, and I always felt confident and happy about myself.
Oh, me too. Like
So that was,
my
yeah,
parents are amazing. They always have been. I have a great relationship with them. No big traumas or anything like
yeah.
that that I'm aware of as a kid, at least.
So
And
I think it comes from childhood. That's why I wanted to mention.
I think it's deeper than that. A
Mm,
really good book is by Adyashanti. It's called Healing the Core Wound of Unworthiness. And there's a lot of things like this where it's operating in our subconscious, meaning that we're not aware of it. And it's deeper than just like our egoic identity of this human
mm,
experience. It goes like to past generations, and really it's ingrained in the human DNA. There's a lot of
DNA, yeah.
studies around it. It's pretty wild once you get into it, because on the surface it's like, yeah, I feel worthy, I'm confident
Yeah,
and all, and everything's
I
good in my
do.
life. But once you start to go deeper, and we call it in NLP, it's the problem behind the problem. There's the presenting problem, then we get to the greater problem. And the presenting problem's never the issue. It's the obvious things right in front of our face. But once we start to go deeper, we find the greater problem. And having done, so many breakthrough sessions, one-on-one sessions with clients, a lot of times what they come to is they don't feel worthy. And they would have never thought that beforehand.
Hmm. This is very
So
interesting. You think problems on the surface, then problems are underneath. I don't feel like I would want to, dig that deep to create problems. Think, oh, maybe I do have that problem.
we're not creating problems, we're unveiling what's already there that we weren't aware of. So Carl Jung coined the term shadow work, and shadow work, or the shadow, just means to make the unconscious conscious. If 95% of our awareness we aren't even aware of, then how would we ever know if there's a problem or not unless we go deep enough to address it? And the work I do is to remove all of that problems. It's not just to bring them to the surface so that you sit with them and now you're
Yeah,
uncomfortable. It's like, no, we bring them to the surface so that we can remove them and replace
yeah.
it with something empowering.
No, that sounds great. So let's get back to that practice that you wanted to teach us.
Yeah, cool. So I'll teach two quick things. One is called the cyclic sigh, and this is scientifically proven to be the most effective form of breath work to alleviate stress and anxiety in the moment and to have lasting impact throughout your day. All it is inhale through your nose all the way up, then through your nose, inhale a bit more, and then through the mouth, exhale. That's one. That's the cyclic sigh. You just keep doing that. So I'll lead us through a few of those. And then the other form is going to be what's called circular connected breathing. All we're doing is inhaling and exhaling through the mouth. And it's a big expansive inhale. So on the inhale, let the belly and the back body expand. It's expansion. And on the exhale, bring the belly back to the spine and contract. And as you exhale, we're actively blowing air out. So what we'll do now is just a few warm-ups of the circular connected breath, and then we'll dive into the practice, just so it's clear with you and clear with the listeners. But it's just inhaling, exhaling through the mouth. Before we do a practice round, do you have any questions about that?
No,
Okay.
you can sit, you can stand, right? I'm standing right now. Whatever you feel comfortable.
For anyone listening,
Lay down, you can.
yeah, make sure you're not doing this while you're driving. Make sure you're not running and doing this, or you're not near water. Like, sit down and close your eyes. I highly recommend that. Christina, for you, since you're standing, it's fine. We won't go too deep here anyways, but typically I would say, like, don't
Sit
do it when
down,
you're
yeah.
standing. Yeah.
Perfect. No
So
driving. Good point.
yeah,
Yeah.
no driving, no
Listening.
closing your eyes if you're doing anything like that. So what we'll do is just 5 inhales and exhales through the mouth. So you can follow my lead. Here we go. And then you can stop. How'd that feel?
I don't know.
Do you
No
notice?
pattern here.
Yeah. So what we'll do now is we'll combine that with the cyclic sighs. We'll do a few cyclic sighs. I'll lead you and all of our listeners through that. Then I'll cue about 5 or 10 of those circular breaths, and we'll just do it for about a minute, and then we'll see how we feel. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so Christina, for you, close down your eyes. For all of you out there in listening land, if you can sit down and close your eyes, I would recommend to do so. If not, you might want to hit pause and come back. This is just going to be for 2 minutes here. All right, so sitting down, closing down the eyes, sitting straight up, feeling your feet on the floor, and through your nose, inhaling all the way up, sipping in a bit more air at the top. And a big sigh, let it go. And all we're doing now is just grounding into our space. And again, through the nose, inhale all the way up, sipping in a bit more air at the top, and side out. We'll do one more, inhaling up, sipping a bit more air at the top, and side out. Now switching to the circular breaths, in and out through the mouth. Here we go. We'll do 5. Just inhaling and exhaling through the mouth. Just inhale and exhale through the mouth. That's it. Keep going. Inhale and exhale through the mouth. Couple more. Keep going. And then inhaling all the way up. Exhale. And hold the breath at the bottom of your exhale here. Just holding your breath. Through your nose, inhale all the way up. Sipping a bit more air at the top. Through your mouth, side out. And we'll do one more round of 5 circular breaths. So in and out of the mouth. Here we go. Let's go. Just breathing here. In and out of the mouth, letting the belly expand on your inhale and bring the belly back to your spine on the exhale. Just breathing in and out of the mouth. And inhale all the way up. Side out. Closing down the eyes, holding the breath at the bottom of your exhale. Just holding the breath. And inhale up. Sipping a bit more air at the top. Inside out. Letting the breath return to its natural state and rhythm and just flickering the eyes open.
I imagine doing it somewhere outdoors or on the beach or in the forest. That would be amazing.
Mhm.
Then you have this fresh air.
Yeah, for sure. You can absolutely do this anywhere. Typically, in our breath club sessions, we'll go about 20 minutes. That was just like maybe 2 minutes, and just giving you and your listeners like
Mm.
a tool you can take with you. And anyone that joined in and felt that, you're going to feel that you are more alert. You're more energized. You're going to feel like you just had a little mini reset, because a lot of times during our day we start to get like sluggish or we get a little tired, maybe Zoom fatigue or different meetings. And it's like if you can just take 2 minutes and just recharge doing something like we just did, it makes a massive impact.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing this. I think it's very helpful. I already feel like my brain is refreshed a little
Yeah.
bit. Then, usually people take a break to go grab a cup of coffee, because they need that little boost. Maybe what we just did can do it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Breath work really helps with stamina, endurance, vitality. It's more than just overcoming trauma and stuck emotions.
No, this is wonderful. And I wanted to talk a little bit about um, our internal worlds and external worlds. And you already started talking a little bit about it. Um, like you said, we often focus on our external world and trying to fix things and don't have time to fix things inside of us. Could you please talk a little bit about this connection
hmm
between our internal and external worlds we're creating for ourselves?
For sure. Yeah. One of my messages is of soul life balance as opposed to work life balance. And the reason is if we look at the archetypal energy of the yin and yang or yang, the yang energy is the external world. And that has to do with everything with experiencing the world with our five senses, obligations, responsibilities, how we show up, and it's really our human doingness, right? And the inner world is that yin energy, and the yin energy is connection to something greater than this life. Call it spirituality, call it religion, or just connection to something greater than just what we can sense with our five senses. It also has to deal with our mental and emotional health, and in addition to that, it's receptivity and intuition. So if we look at work life balance, we can see it's double yang, it's double external world.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, that's why I talk about soul life balance because it's a recategorization where you put work as part of our part of life and reprioritize our mental and emotional health. So I view everything from a soul life mindset, kind of like combining the external world with our internal world. When I'm making decisions, right? Like I could use my prefrontal cortex, which is logic and analytical, which is that external world of the human doing versus the human being, or I could connect to my intuition through my limbic brain, which is in direct correlation to the internal world. I don't prioritize the internal world more than the external world, and same vice versa. It's like learning to
That's good.
work with both, you know?
Yeah, no, that this is good soul life balance. That makes so much more sense. I think we all need to reframe the way we think about it. And I watched your TEDx talk about this, so I highly recommend it to everyone.
I appreciate you checking it out.
You just said that you're trying to kind of balance it by dedicating the same amount of time, right, to your internal world and your external world. Is there any other things that we can do to reach that balance in our lives?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting the word balance because sometimes people don't like the word balance because they think it's just that, like the same, like equal.
Mhm.
And for me, I think of a balance board or I surf, right? And what are you doing on a surfboard? You're balancing. Sometimes you're going to fall off. Sometimes you're going to be more towards the front or the left or the right. So I don't think of balance as equal. It's working together. So sometimes I might be a little bit more in the yang side of the human doing as opposed to the yin side, right? But in terms of how to practice soul life balance, what's really important for most of us is to prioritize our mental and emotional health because we are so good out here in the West at being in our human doing, right? So most of us need more practice and more of a prioritization on anything that's going to help us access the inner world. And that's exactly why I teach nervous system regulation stacked with subconscious reprogramming,
Mm.
because those modalities are so crucial for our mental and emotional health.
Yes, I think that that's a great point. That balance can look different, first of all, for every one of us. And even, for example, for me, today my balance will mean one thing. In 6 months, the balance will be something completely different. So for me, I think, yeah, I think it was different in every stage of my life. Just
Mhm.
like you said, sometimes you need more time for your internal peace, for internal discoveries. And sometimes you have to shift your focus to this external world and have things happen there. So
Yeah,
then you
different. Mhm.
teach, you have this individualized program, right? Because, like we said, the balance can look different for every one of us.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I have a free community, like I mentioned, Breath Club that anyone's welcome to join. I also have Breath School. It's just $50 a month. In Breath School, I teach through an online course in 3 sessions a week, nervous system regulation. And then I have one-on-one coaching that I offer as well with those breakthrough sessions. So totally available to people to kind of cater to where someone's at, as long as someone is like willing to do the work and show up for themselves and to go deep and be with what's coming through and prioritize mental and emotional health. Like, hey, let's go, let's get after it.
And you said you have to be ready, you have to be able to put some work in and some time in. When did you know that you're ready for something like this? What was your journey?
Yeah, for anyone listening that wants to learn more about that, as you mentioned, the TED Talk's a good place to go. The mental health myth of work-life balance, Sam Kabert. And basically, in that TED Talk, I explained it. For me, I achieved all the success I was chasing, named Silicon Valley's 40 under 40 list. I was 31 years old to be named to a list of 40 most influential people in Silicon Valley under 40 and just be
A
31.
huge achievement.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Thank
Very
you.
competitive here.
Yeah, yeah, you're in the area. And I had just built my business to seven figures while working less than 4 hours a day. Yet through all of these achievements that I was chasing, I was also experiencing a numbing depression, sleepless nights, all the things. And I did a breathwork journey, like a deep dive with just myself and a facilitator, about an hour and a half of breathing and after that, I literally felt reborn. I started working with
Mm.
plant and earth medicines. And then after that, I just started exploring. I became a student of the universe. I became a student of healing. I changed everything in my life. I cut out a lot of things that weren't serving me to focus on my spirituality and mental and emotional health. And here I am 6 years later.
That's wonderful. It seems like you're happy with your life, but is it even possible for us to reach that happiness? It seems like happiness is something down the road, right? What do you think happiness is
Yeah,
for
for
you
sure.
personally?
So one of the things I share is back then I was operating on a belief on a subconscious level, meaning I wasn't aware of it, but it was when I achieve ABC, I will feel XYZ.
Yeah.
When I did my yoga teacher training, shout out to Koda Shea, he said to name your ultimate potential is to limit your ultimate potential.
Mm.
So that hit me like a ton of bricks because I was like, man, I was naming my ultimate potential on all of these things. So it's so cliche to say, like, be in the journey as opposed to the destination, but that's exactly it. The yogic philosophy of sadhana teaches to have a daily practice. And I kind of adopt and mold and change that a bit to be like, all right, let's have our daily practice for both the soul and the life, the inner and the external world. That's really how I practice it more than anything else. Finally, I had a yoga instructor say in a yoga class once, practice makes practice. And I immediately thought to myself, like, practice makes practice? What are you talking about? It's practice makes perfect. And then I caught myself being like, kind of how you started the show with self-talk. I noticed like the conditioning and programming of me chasing perfection. And then not only that, but when we talk about work-life balance or we talk about practice makes perfect, we're focused on an end
And
destination.
destination.
So I've adopted the mindset of practice makes practice. And what that means to me is building awareness. When you get off track and you notice you get off track, without shaming and guilting yourself, because we all do it, and that goes towards that unworthiness wound, right? You celebrate the awareness you just built, and now you have the choice to consciously respond as opposed to unconsciously react and get back on track from there.
So it's a journey for you. So interesting to know where you are in your journey now. Like you just mentioned that you're thinking about a new book. And can you talk a little bit about your books that are already there that people can buy and learn from you?
Yeah, my three most recent ones. Last year, I wrote a book called "Overcome the Overwhelm." That's about breath work and triggers and emotions and mental emotional health. Year before that, I wrote "Psychedelic Compass." That's about like plant and earth medicine and if someone's ready for psychedelic therapy. Year before that, I wrote "Soul Life Balance: A Guide to Igniting and Integrating Spiritual Awakenings." And I think of Soul Life Balance as like my big book. That one took me 3 years to write, not so much because the writing took so long, but it took me 3 years to really embody what it was. And it's kind of like I said with the next one, Mastering Worthiness. Like, I know that book's there, but I don't feel like it's ready to even be addressed yet, right? But the difference between Overcome the Overwhelm, last year's book, and Psychedelic Compass was like those books just came out in a matter of like a month. It was just like, oh, this one's ready to be born. So it just
Yeah, yeah.
was birthed into the world, you know?
And
Yeah.
now people think of artificial intelligence tools.
Yeah.
It's so easy to write your book, but realistically, you write it in your mind for so long, experiencing things, and before you can put it on paper and then edit. It's such a extensive process that you have to go through. So I think we will be able to see the difference between the books that are born the way you just described, which is very special, unique, and has so much value, personal value in it. In those books that can be produced fast and easy using AI. And I think it would make a difference not only for people who read it, but also for authors. It seems like you live through that book. This journey of writing it is so special to you personally. And then people who read it, they can feel it too. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I agree. It's getting messy now with AI, you know. Deepak Chopra wrote an amazing book. I forget what it's called. It just came out this year, I think. I haven't finished it. I just was like flipping through it. But basically, in that book, he is giving ChatGPT and Gemini and maybe some other AIs some prompts, and they're all about like using AI as a guru. And it's thought provoking because what he's sharing is like, hey, you can go to AI and find like legit information with secrets from the universe based off of ancient texts. And it's interesting to see how he leveraged AI in a very transparent way, being like, like Deepak Chopra, a spiritual teacher for what, 30 plus years. How many books has he written? I don't even know. And him being like, I'm just going to go at AI and show you guys what this is capable of. Now, for me personally, like, I'm conflicted with it, right? Because I've been producing a lot of content for a number of years, and that's always been a superpower for me. And I utilize AI for like emails and social media and things like that, landing pages,
Yeah,
and
very helpful, definitely.
it's so helpful. And I am like, wow, well, the next time I write a book, like, you know, that's kind of like playing with Adam and Eve and the forbidden fruit, you know. It's like, man, I really could leverage AI to help me write a book. But to your point, like, how I like to work with AI is more like pretending it's hiring a coach. And when you
Mhm.
hire a coach, you like talk through things, right? So it's like, hey, I'm thinking about like, if I were to, I'm not right now, but if I were to have a conversation with AI, like, hey, I'm thinking about writing a book called Mastering Worthiness, and this is kind of where I'm at. Like, what are your thoughts? What do you think? What do you think should be included?
Yeah.
That takes away from my own like wisdom and everything else, you know? So,
Well, maybe not. Maybe
yeah.
it triggers some ideas that you already had but didn't think about at the moment?
Right, and that's why I say you're right, because that's what you would do in working with an author coach or any sort of coach. Like you're having those conversations. So a lot of people look at it as cheating. It's like, well, it's
Depends
not.
how you
Yeah,
use it, right?
exactly.
I
Yeah.
agree.
So
Agree. So yeah, it's a very helpful tool and it will expedite the process, make it easier. Yeah.
totally,
I think it's good and bad. It depends on how you use it, right?
I would agree. Yeah.
So would you like to talk about soul life balance a little bit more? Is there anything else you could share with us?
So with soul life balance, these days I think of it more of a mindset. I say to myself soul life mindset, kind of like what I spoke about before in terms of looking at everything from like intuition and discernment, you know, a blend of both. We talked about being in the journey and sadhana, the daily prioritization of your habits and behaviors that, you know, relate to both inner and outer world. Practice makes practice. The yin and yang, those are like the normal bullet points I'll cover when it comes to soul life balance. But the important thing to know is there's no end destination. And when you start to find that you're shaming and guilting yourself, that's when you do the nervous system work and then you get back on track. And that's really like at its core how we're actually present in the journey. It's through the daily habits and behaviors and being honest with ourselves with what's coming up so that we can readjust.
It's interesting how you mentioned this fact that we're shaming ourselves, that we have this negative talk. I don't have much of that. So it's interesting to me. So in your work with so many people, you're seeing it a lot, right? This is something that maybe some of our listeners experienced, and that can be rewritten, right? Like you said, in your subconscious mind, and you can help with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone has limiting beliefs and negative self-talk and shames and guilts themselves. Like one of my best friends, a college football player, he's 42 now. He still looks like he would be playing college football. Amazing shape. He's director of sales for a big company, full of vitality, energy, hilarious guy, so confident, and we're close homies, right? We're really close friends, and there's definitely like shame and guilt that he feels because he's
Maybe
allowing himself.
criticizing yourself, which is not bad, but like guilt and shame, these are, I feel like, strong words.
Yeah, well, the word should is a perfect one. If you've ever had an experience where it's like, oh man, that podcast interview, I should have or I could have done this,
Oh, all
right?
the time.
Yeah, that's shame.
Yeah,
That's shame.
it's
That's
shame.
guilt.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
Okay.
about. Like, there's different
Okay.
degrees of it where
Like
it can be
criticizing yourself so you can improve the next time. This is how I frame it in my mind. Just
well,
share it
that's
with you.
exactly what I say. You build awareness around it and then you celebrate. I built the awareness around it so that you can improve. But the to my point, there's different degrees of it. Some people get stuck in the crippling. And the thing is, like, we have to be honest with whatever feelings are coming to the surface so
Mm,
that we can transform them, because otherwise people get stuck in victim consciousness and victim mentality and they're just drowning in those sensations.
yeah, but I have met people that live their lives in this type of victim mentality, and it seems like they don't even want to get out. It's kind of a way of life.
Hmm. Yeah.
Maybe some people, like you said, can be self-aware and they want that change, but some people are comfortable.
Yeah, I got someone. I post 3 videos a day on all social media platforms. They're just like 60 and 90-second videos. And one was about like victim consciousness or something. And someone wrote something about like, I don't have victim mentality. My life is just so hard for these reasons. And I wrote something back to the person and it was like, you
That's
don't
exactly
understand.
what.
This person was like, you don't understand, like I shouldn't have these challenges, it's not fair. And I'm like, okay, if only you were able to read your comments right now. You know what I mean? Because it was like, seems pretty clear that you're lost in your stuff right now, and that is your consciousness, and that's because it's triggering that person and they don't know how to sit with the triggers, right? Everything I'm teaching is to allow ourselves to not feel triggered as often because we're doing our own work.
And thinking victim mentality, it seems like a way of life, but certainly every one of us had situations in life then we felt like a victim, then we were treated unfairly, then something bad happened that was outside of your control. So there's a difference between feeling like a victim in some certain situations. Like you said, you need to feel it and then identify that feeling and then do something about it. And another thing, then it's your lifestyle. Whatever happens, you always feel like you're a victim. Is there a difference?
Yeah, yeah, I think all of it, anything that's like that's in resistance, it's the classic things, the classic mindset shift of reframing things happening to you to for you, right? If you're in the category of to you, it's victim mentality. Now, the one that most people don't know is making the leap of things happening for you to things happening with you. Because saying things happening for you is still bypassing. It's still like, hey, there's this outside force, and it's not taking ownership
I
and
like that.
responsibility.
That's good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting with you.
Hmm.
Yes, I always try to make that shift not happening for you, because then you look at the big picture. If something bad happened, if you look at the big picture, maybe that was a good thing that happened. Eventually we will see the whole picture and understand that bad thing that happened in the past helped me to be where I am right now. So there's gonna be so it's not the end destination. Something bad happened and that's it. There's something can happen in the future that will change your perspective completely on that past event. But what you're saying happens with you. So could you elaborate on that a little bit? This is interesting
Yeah.
concept, I think.
I love it. Yeah, I'm such a huge fan of this. So saying things happening to you is victim mentality. There's an outside force that's out to get you. That's the piece of programming that's going on a subconscious level. Reframing that to things happening for you is saying, hey, I'm not a victim. Like, even though this seems like a bad thing, it's actually happening for my highest and best good. But
Yeah.
the piece of programming running behind the scenes that we're not aware of is like, I'm not really in charge here. I'm not really taking responsibility. Like there's something out there
Mhm.
that's doing stuff and setting me up. And even if it's bad, like it's actually good. It's like that's the energy behind it. But making the leap to things happening with you is saying, hey, there's not an outside force out there that's conspiring for my highest and best good. I am a co-creator with this
Oh, wow.
force.
I
I
love
am
that.
part of it. So I need to take ownership and responsibility for what's shaping in my life and not just wait around and say, oh, things are happening for me. It's almost a form of spiritually bypassing to say things are happening for you. Something bad happens and you go, oh, it's happening for you. So just trust the process. But if you say, hey, things are happening with me or with you, now all of a sudden I go, what was my role in creating this?
I love this. Yeah.
Mhm.
No,
Yeah,
this is
it's a good
this is
one.
great. Yes, it is. That's gonna stay with me for a while.
Yep, it's a
No,
powerful one.
it's a great one. Yes, I ask all my podcast guests about kindness. What
Mhm.
does kindness mean to you? And I also wanted to ask you, maybe you remember when last time somebody was kind to you.
Hmm. It's so funny because recently, a few weeks ago, I was researching the difference between nice and kindness. Because a lot of people are about kindness, and some people are very passionate about speaking why kindness is superior to nice. I'm not one of those people. Having said that, like my son's mother is all about kindness. Like she's huge into kindness, which is great. For me, that's not like a hot button or something I'm super passionate about. I think my stuff, my lane is a little bit more the things that we've been talking about. I think it's crucially important to be nice or kind, but even though I'm so specific with words and energies behind the words and whatnot, I'm
Mhm.
still dancing with that one in terms of nice and kind because I don't know, to be honest. For me, I feel like I might be a little bit more of a nice person versus a kind person, which is why I'm like
So
I'm
what's the
still
difference
sitting
in
with
your
it.
mind then between kind and nice?
Like I said, I didn't understand the difference, so I researched it to be like, what is the difference? And at this moment right now, I think what I gathered from it was kind or nice is a bit more passive,
Yes, it
and
is.
kindness is a little bit more proactive. I'm not
That's how I
entirely
see it. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, what I will say, Christina, is a word that resonates with me more than nice or kind is authentic.
If you could answer the second part of my question,
Yeah.
you could think about the instance or any moment in your life then somebody was kind to you? Because
Mm.
that's a very special feeling. Doesn't have to be something big, right? But it's such a wonderful feeling when somebody is being kind to you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of moments in my life where I experience kindness. One that comes up now is like my son's mom and I had not the greatest of a separation, and we've reconnected in this past year, the past 5 months, and it's been amazing. It's absolutely incredible. All that to say, I met my son for the first time at about, I forget now, maybe 14 months old or so. And he offered me a carrot. It's just something so simple. Like he was eating carrots and then he was just like
Wanted to
handed,
share.
yeah. And that was like one of those moments that's coming up where I was just like, it just melted my heart. I was just
Oh,
meeting him for the first time and being like, wow, like that. It's just so incredibly kind, right? And innocent
yes,
and
yes,
real and authentic.
authentic and kind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I
So,
see why it's so connected in your mind, kindness and being
yeah,
authentic.
exactly.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I think an important thing for us to consider is the word purpose. This is and I love that we're going deep on specific words like kindness or whatever, and I'll bring purpose into the equation because I think a lot of times when people do this work, whether it's their mental and emotional health or they're going deeper on mindfulness and spirituality, they start to hear words like purpose a lot, especially in personal development or spiritual development circles. And let's consider this. If the outer world that we experience is a direct reflection of our inner world, and that is quantum physics, then when we hear all of these narratives about having some grandiose purpose in our life, a lot of times what comes up for a lot of people is this energy of, I need to find my purpose, which sends our inner world out of homeostasis. So instead of looking for a grandiose purpose to achieve and something to do in the outer world, I believe it's more important to focus on your inner world and get that into balance, get that into homeostasis. And then from there, we can create whatever it is in the world. Furthermore, I don't believe that we have grandiose purposes. I think our purpose for being here has to do everything to do with soul contracts, karma, and growth of the soul.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Christina. This has been great. Appreciate the opportunity to share with you, your listeners, and thank you, everyone.